Thank you very much, Amy. It's nice to be with you again. I'll say at the beginning, I love questions when I'm doing presentations, and I know there's a couple of microphones here, and you're encouraged to go to the microphone at any point if you have a question. But I think I'm a pretty informal guy, so I'm okay if you just ball out a question from your seat. In the middle of my sentence, I really don't mind. And if you have a question and something doesn't make sense about what I said, then there's a very good chance that somebody else in the room has the same question. So again, I'm perfectly okay with questions at any point as we go along. And a couple of very high level things about energy and electricity costs in towns. I'll tell you, if you have an arena, then that is your biggest cost in most cases. If you don't have an arena, your next biggest cost is likely to be your water pumping station or stations. And I had the pleasure of going down to Avondale about a month or so ago and having a look at their system down there. And it's very nice. It's pretty new. They use variable speed drives and their energy use is low. I was talking to another town maybe 6 weeks ago, and you know, their pumping station was probably about 8 times bigger than their next largest bill. So it can be a real big thing. And we're happy to work with you to try to find solutions, ways to save energy. I mentioned this control, these variable speed drives, which is a great technology, but all you need to know is it can really cut energy costs for water pumping at your main stations. Anyways, questions are welcome at any point. Love to see them. Put this one up there to hopefully get your attention. We do have incentives available for upgrades that are going to save electricity up to $50,000. Now that's a pretty big project. We did have one with the city of St. John's that topped out at $50,000. They put those big variable speed drives on 3 very large pumps that they had at the Windsor Lake pumping station, and they saved probably about $80,000 a year in electricity costs, and got that $50,000 incentive. So that was a real big one. Most of you, of course, are going to have something smaller, and our typical incentive amount, depending on the project, is probably somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. That's normally what we see, and it pays somewhere around 15% of the costs. That also varies, you know, up or down a little bit. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's might be closer to 10. Just to give you an idea about what sort of incentives we have. We call it our business program, but you know what? And that kind of sticks a little bit. Really, it's our non-residential program. So that means municipalities, fire stations. If it's not a home, then we can look at it through this business efficiency program that we have. Of course, the biggest motivator for most people is saving money on their electricity bills. And we certainly get that. There typically are other benefits as well. If you put in LED lighting, they last a lot longer than the older, you know, fluorescents and incandescents and so on. So you get maintenance savings as well. It can be better quality, and there can be convenience, especially when you're putting in improved controls for certain types of projects. So it makes it more convenient to operate. And there are really incentives for any type of facility that you have. As long as we're saving electrical energy, that's the requirement for our program. So we certainly hear from lots of people that are interested in moving from oil to electricity. Unfortunately, we don't have any rebates for that. And dare I speak for the government, at this point, there are no rebates or grants from them as well. Things can certainly change on that front because, as we all appreciate, you know, the federal government, the provincial government, and other governments are interested in moving away from greenhouse gases. So that'll be a driver, and there may not be a program now for that, but maybe in 6 months or 12 months, there certainly could be. So, you know, lots of projects that we can cover off. And we've got a couple of main streams. There are what we call product rebates. So if you want to change out your lighting, you can get rebates, typically 30% of the cost of that new LED fixture. And there are other products there. All of the information I'm giving you is on our Take Charge NL website. So that is a great resource with all of our rebates and other energy saving suggestions for you. So we've got our product rebate. That one you can go ahead and buy the products, install them, and then apply to us with a paper copy, or you can do it all online. You're going to need a copy of your the receipt for those new fixtures that you put in. Then there's a custom path, and in that case, you really need to come to us first, and it's a good idea anyways. Whatever project you're is, by all means, reach out to us at Take Charge. Again, you can do that on the website. Send us a quick note with your contact information, and we'll get in contact with you. But with our custom rebates, that's one where you got to reach out first, because ultimately there's a 2-page project proposal form that needs to be submitted. And I don't know too much about the sorts of proposals that most people in the room had to submit for funding, but this one is pretty simple. 5, fill in the blanks, and we're good to go. And we'll help you out with one of those 5. So you submit that 2-page project proposal to us, and then we create an agreement, and that needs to be signed before you start your project. That's why it's so important to reach out to us first. And we'll certainly provide, you know, any other energy saving tips that we can as well for you. So that custom solutions, it's up to $50,000, and really, you know, fine tune those suggestions for your facility. We can do that. When you contact us, we'll do an energy assessment, and it's free of charge. So it's a complimentary assessment. And typically we'll look at the last 3 years of your energy bills and figure out, okay, where's the money going? Where's the energy being used? And then we'll do a site visit as required to help you, again, fine tune what the possibilities are for your facilities. And the incentive amount is based on how much energy you can save. All right, so if you can save more energy, the incentive will be bigger. The average is in that $5,000 range. And again, all types of projects, as long as it's saving electrical energy. We've also got funding for energy audits or feasibility studies that you may want to do as part of your assessment, like that water treatment plant, for example. That might be a good place where you'd like to look at a feasibility study for options to save energy. We've got money there up to $5,000 for the feasibility study, up to $3,000 for an energy audit. Again, all this information is on our Take Charge website. So just to give you a quick idea about that custom rebate process, there's an energy assessment that we can help you with. So sometimes people come to us with an energy assessment, and that's okay too. That 2-page project proposal form that needs to be submitted, then we create an agreement that you would review. If you want to proceed, sign off, and then you're good to go. You're approved to start the project. You go ahead, install the equipment, make whatever upgrades you're planning, and then we come back afterwards and do the closeout. So that's when the incentives get paid. And typically there'll be a couple payments, you know, half when the project is commissioned or finished, and then the second half some point down the road. Is there a question over here? I just want to make sure I didn't miss one. Okay, thanks. Again, that green circle, just a reminder, contact us early in the game so that we can help you through the process. Even if it's a simple lighting upgrade, by all means, reach out to us. Just a few projects that we've done. You know, I'll get to a couple that are specific to municipalities, but just to give you an idea, an office building, upgraded the controls in the facility, put in some heat pumps and heat recovery, and it was a real nice project. You know, they saved 20% more than they expected to save, and the incentive from Take Charge was $34,000. That was a pretty big project. You know, the average is more like 5,000, and in this case, they had a payback of just under 7 years. With this building, one of the nice things was that it really brought a lot of renewal to the building. They went to digital controls, which were much better. They put in a new HVAC system or upgraded part of that HVAC system. So there was a lot of building renewal that happened as part of that project. Next time you're going in town, I could tell you, as you're driving by Donovan's Industrial Park, if you look to your right, the tallest building in there, that's this C-Force building. It's kind of two buildings together, and they upgraded their lighting and went to LED. In one part of the building, they had in-floor hot water radiation system. They put in a heat pump to replace the heat source there. In the other part of the building, it was forced air, and they put in an air source heat pump to get themselves some savings there. So again, in this case, they were a little over 12% higher of projected savings, and our incentive was say $38,000 there. I'm getting older now, folks, like all of us, and it looks like 38,000. I can see it down here. Got to squint. All right. So that was another nice project, and again, building renewal as part of it. Just about everybody's got fire stations. If it's electrically heated now and you've got your trucks in there and, you know, heating that space, I typically see probably somewhere around 15 degrees Celsius. They'll have it set back a little bit, but, you know, they've got to maintain heat. That is a beautiful project for putting in ductless or mini split heat pumps. And it's the sort of project that we can support you with incentives. So for the town of Gambo, that's exactly what they did. And they essentially doubled their savings over what was expected. So it was a beautiful project. They got almost $2,200 from us, and they're seeing bill savings around about $6,400 a year. So that was a fantastic project. It did include the library, which was a small piece of that larger project. But again, if you've got a fire hall that's electrically heated, this is a prime place to put in those mini split or ductless heat pumps to get some very good savings. Again, in each case, we've got to assess the project, see how much energy savings, what is the cost of doing the project. And we do have a screen that it has to pass, but this is certainly one where the vast majority of this type of project would pass and be eligible for incentives. Arenas and stadiums, again, another big user in many towns. A lot of them are changing out the lighting above the ice surface. That's a great project. We've got product rebates to help you out there, $90 per fixture in most cases. And another type of project that you can do is the brine pump control. So in a lot of stadiums, there's a 20 horsepower pump that gets turned on when they start making ice, and it runs until the ice comes off somewhere around Easter the following year. It's going 24/7, and it uses a lot of energy. In this case, they changed out to actually it was Bell Island and Glovertown arenas. They changed out to a infrared control. So there's actually an infrared eye shoots down on the ice. It's monitoring the ice temperature directly, and that 20 horsepower pump only needs to start up when they want to run the compressors. So, you know, runtime goes from 24/7 to maybe somewhere around 6 hours a day. There's some very good savings associated with that. So again, in these cases, you typically expect an incentive of $3,000 to $4,000. That one, you know, it's gotten more costly over the years. We're seeing some prices now that are, you know, probably $25,000 for a system, plus or minus. And the thing is with that, we're certainly happy to look with you. What's it going to cost? And getting a quote is the best way to know that from a supplier. And then we'll look at the energy savings and determine how much of an incentive it will be worth. So something to keep in mind if you've got arenas and stadiums. I mentioned product rebates, so we'll have just a quick rundown through some of those. Too much information on that picture to see, really. About 30% of the cost of new luminaires, the material cost of the new fixtures, is what gets covered with our rebates, typically up to $30 per fixture. If you just want to replace the tubes themselves, we've got 30% up to $3 per tube, and the prices come down a lot on those. Just the regular linear 4-foot tubes, we're seeing prices now of about $8 per tube, for example, right? So the cost has come down from what not so many years ago was $30 or $40 per tube, which was really high. If you've got some LED high bays, maybe in a garage or in that arena, and typically they're 400 watt metal halides, you can get $90 per fixture for those. If it's a lower ceiling height, maybe it's a 250 watt fixture, and there's a $60 product rebate for those. These are the ones that you just go ahead, buy it up front, and then you can send in the application to us afterwards. One of the requirements for lighting is that it be Design Light Consortium or DLC approved. Again, all this information is on the website. Most fixtures are going to meet that, and it's an assurance of quality and energy savings, and it keeps some of the poor quality products that you really don't want to buy anyways out of the system. So it's a good thing. Pole lighting. Oh yes, yeah. Yep, good, excellent question. So a normal fixture, like the ones over our head, there's a 4-foot tube, and then there's a ballast which drives that tube. Our program requires that there still be a ballast in the circuit. There are some of those 4-foot tubes that will bypass the ballast, so the ballast comes out of the circuit. Our rebate does not cover those. It has to maintain a ballast circuit. So that's a detail that would be on the website, but great question. Thank you very much for that. If it's exterior lighting that you have, and I know for most municipalities, you're renting those fixtures from us, but if it was a situation where you actually own the pole and the fixture, and you wanted to go to LED, we've got rebates for those. If it's 1,000 watt, which would be a very big fixture and a very high pole, it can be $250 per fixture. If you've got 400 watt fixtures, it's $100 per fixture. Another question? Yes, please. Yeah. No. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. And if I understand it right, I mean, if the ballast fails, the tubes will not work. And if you take the ballast out of the circuit and you put in that regular tube, it just won't work. It needs to be, an electrician has to get involved and put sort of a higher voltage, 120 volts, right to the end of that fixture for it to work properly. And again, that's the type that we don't provide rebates on. So you have to be replacing existing fixtures to be eligible for this. And that's the way essentially all of our products are set up. If it's new construction or a big new expansion to a building, that is not covered. The expectation is that you're going to go with LED fixtures anyway, because if you got to buy the old type, why would you do that? For a little bit more, you get LED, which uses, a third to half the power. So it's really the right thing to do for any new construction or big expansions. So our products are covering existing situations only. I mentioned already, it's got to be DLC qualified product. And the rebate is on the pre-tax amount on the fixture. So labor is not covered. All the information is there on the website. I hope you're interested in thinking about some of the fixtures that you can use. And if you come to visit us at Take Charge NL, you'll find all the information. Just a bit of a laundry list here now, or a grocery list of other products included. Just a regular screw in LED light bulbs, you can get 50% of the cost of those bulbs. And I really encourage you, if you've got any of the old incandescents, try to get rid of them, unless there's a very specific reason why you can't. There's rebates on the LED wall pack. So if you've got fixtures on the outside of the building, maybe back to that fire hall, and there's a couple of lights on the walls outside, we've got rebates for those. Exit signs can be replaced with LED. And a nice one that there's a little LED retrofit kit. So you don't need to replace the fixture. For about $15 or $20, you can get a LED exit sign kit, and our rebate's actually $50. So in many cases, it covers the whole cost. Yes, this question at the back. Yeah, for swimming pools, I'm going to say no product rebates. But if you have an idea and you want to upgrade the dehumidification system or the pumps, then we would look at any of those opportunities under our custom path. So we can still look at it, but not with these specific product rebates. Yeah, so great question. Thank you. Occupancy sensors. So that's the one you walk in the room, the lights turn on, and then after a while turns them off. Programmable thermostats. So you've probably heard us promoting those for your homes, and they're also available for commercial customers as well. If you got a rooftop unit, you see those on the strip malls. You see a big box on top of the store there. If you go from a regular electric resistance to a heat pump, there's rebates, pre-rinse spray valves. So we don't see it, but in the kitchen, after we had our beautiful meal, someone else is cleaning those up. These pre-rinse spray valves, they spray off all the old food, and these just save a lot of water and so a lot of energy. If it's accommodations, there's rebates on shower heads, and again, a privately owned LED parking lot lighting. I mentioned that on the last slide. Any musicians in the room? Anybody play a musical instrument? I'm putting up my hand, but I don't. That's the truth. But look, Long and McQuaid, they of course they sell musical instruments. They replaced 240 of their old halogen spotlights, and that would be a big maintenance issue because probably, I'm sure every day they were changing those. Anyways, they went over to LED. They got a little over $2,300 from us, and savings of about $1,500 a year. But the thing that they would really appreciate is that they don't, every day there would be one of those light bulbs that would burn out. I can almost guarantee you, at least every 2 days. So after a few days, look around the store, places are getting dark. With LED, they last 10 to 15 times longer than those. And so the maintenance benefit is one of those big convenience benefits of energy efficiency. We have a pilot program in place now for a very few communities. The full list is going to be on the website, but essentially it covers, St. John's, Paradise, CBS, and then it's only a pilot. So we've got it going this year. Then you go out to Corner Brook. It's Corner Brook, Deer Lake, Rocky Harbor. There's probably more on that list. All right. So if you want to see if your community, but in those couple of geographic areas. So it's a pilot project. We'll assess it after this year and see if we can roll it out to other places. But in that case, we've got a contractor who will actually come in and do some of those lighting retrofits free of charge for small businesses. All right. So if it's a smaller business, we're happy to look at each and every one and figure out if you're eligible in those geographic areas. Okay. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll grow to a larger part of the province as well. Lots of resources on our website, lots of information, suggestions. You can look, depending if you're in your other lives, if you're working in a certain type of business, go on there, look and see if there's some tips for your particular industry. If it was a fish plant or, a retail outlet, whatever, all kinds of great information on there. And of course, all the information that we have on our rebates, incentives is also on our website. So we're going to change gears a little bit now, talk about electric vehicles. And, our little tagline is EVs are here. And in 22, they grew from probably about 300 electric vehicles, fully electric vehicles on the road. Now we're up to about 780 in the most recent information that came out. So it is starting to build. And there's also what they call a plug-in hybrid that you can get. And with those vehicles, there's batteries that'll probably typically take you 50 to 60 kilometers on the battery. And then there's a gas engine as well. So it's combining the two that'll take you a lot further. And those numbers are like about 2,800 or so in the province. So again, it's growing and we appreciate that. I mentioned last night that right now there are about 33 fast chargers in the province. One of them is right next door here at the service station. So with these, you come, you plug in your battery electric vehicle, and about every 20 minutes you get 100 kilometers of range. So, you know, it's a different way of traveling. It takes longer to charge. I should tell you, most charging, 90 to 95%, happens in your own driveway. But if you're driving across the province, now you need to use those fast chargers. And again, there's about 33 of them. And that network of fast chargers will continue to grow as time goes on. So, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll speak in terms of range, how much range you add, right, to how far you go. So if you pull in next door here and you've got another 200 kilometers of range and you're going to Deer Lake, I'll say, well, you know, you got to get some more. So you plug in about 20 minutes, it'll add 100 kilometers. So you go from being able to drive 200 kilometers to being able to drive about 300 kilometers. And if you leave it plugged in for another 20 minutes, it'll add more, but it'll only, of course, take the vehicle up to about your maximum charge. And typically with the fast chargers, instead of going to 100% of your battery charge, it'll actually come up and tell you, this is how long it'll take to get to 80% charge. So again, fast chargers, it's about 100 kilometers for about 20 minutes. All right. Yep. Yeah.
So why do you stop here for 2 or 3 hours to wait for the charge up again?
Not 2 or 3 hours, but so you leave the West Coast. Most new vehicles have a range of about 400 kilometers. So if you're going to leave your house fully charged, where are you coming from? Okay, all right. So you know, you got about 30 kilometers, maybe less, to get to Corner Brook, and then you've got well, you know how far it is, don't you? How many kilometers is it? Oh yeah, okay. And I'm from the West Coast myself, Pasadena. So I know it's 600. It's about halfway. So 350. We're going to say 370 kilometers, more or less. Yeah. That's. And you know what? I mean, it is a different way of traveling. So, you know, right now there's a small percentage, you could call them early adopters, but it's coming, and it won't be next year, and it won't be in 5 years. It won't be in 10, but eventually, you know, in another 15 years, we're still driving. We'll be driving. That's right. Yeah. And you know what is interesting? Yeah. Well, you know, my mother-in-law is going to be 90 in a few months, and she's still driving now. God love her.
She's driving me crazy.
All right, we're going to try to cut down on the mother-in-law jokes, but no. And you know what? People are passionate about their vehicles, right? And I mean, you see comments. Some people feel like they're being forced to go. You know, I mean, they're available, and the network is growing. So that means people that want to drive EVs are going to be able to do it in the province. But, you know, and there are some mandates actually that we'll talk about in a minute from the federal government. And the mandates are just, we want to get here by this date. Yep.
So what you're saying, I can leave my home on the West Coast for to go to St. John. I won't have to get an hotel here again.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Yeah. And you could make it on that normal 400 kilometers. You could make it all the way. Now, most people are not going to want to be driving when there's 7%, you know, range left. So you're probably going to stop wherever, Bishop Falls, for 10 minutes. And now you're comfortably going to make it to Gander. And when you get to Gander, you can plug in next door to that fast charger for a couple hours, and you'll be up to 80% or less than that. You know, it's up to yourself. But yeah, it's a different mentality. It's a different mentality for sure. Yes.
I'm all into these electric vehicles and stuff.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine just got one, and I mean, the payments are high on them to start with. And
Right.
then she told me about the battery life. And I was like, are you serious?
What'd she tell you about the battery life?
In 4 years, you're going to have to replace battery that costs $10,000 to $12,000. Like,
Yeah.
so will they be looking at incentives for that is what I would be interested in, because What's the use of a vehicle without a battery?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a great point because, you know, we're in the age of misinformation, aren't we? And I mean, information doesn't change too quickly. So I mean, I'm not sure how much of an issue that was 5 years ago, but batteries, unless there's a problem, unless there's a fault in the battery, which obviously can happen with anything in your vehicle, but you should not have to worry about changing out the batteries. And I think typically you'll see an 8-year warranty on the batteries because, you know, manufacturers know that this is a concern. Like nobody, it would be expensive if you had to do it, but I can assure you that unless there's a fault or something wrong, you're not going to have to change out the batteries in a vehicle. And if your friend bought an EV and she believes that, that's too bad, because I mean, that'll be concerning for anybody, certainly, because it would be expensive, right? So yeah, sometimes, you know, information kind of sticks around. If that was a problem 5-10 years ago, it's really not a problem now with batteries that are available. But thank you very much for the question, because you do see that right out there being questioned for sure. So there's 33 fast chargers in the province now, and you know, we keep adding more. Thankfully, the federal government is very supportive, and they typically pay about half the cost of installing these fast chargers, which is fantastic for people that want to drive EVs. And here are those federal government mandates. So, you know, they're proposed at this point. So they put it out there in December of last year, and this is for light duty vehicles. So kinds of vehicles that we typically would own ourselves and drive. They're saying they want 20% of new vehicles sold to be electric vehicles by 2026, 60% by 2030, and 100% by 2035. This is what they're putting out there in their proposed regulations. So your guess is perhaps as good as mine how that'll all pan out, but it's fairly clear that this is where the driving world is headed, is going. Yes, sir. How much you say? 15 to 20? Yeah, that's right. And typically they would say they're sort of at their end of the life when there's still 70% life left in them, but you know, it goes from 100%. When it gets to 70%, they say, okay, time to change them out. And you know, you wouldn't want to have them in your vehicles. So yeah, you know, I heard one professor from Dalhousie who's been studying these for 20 years said, you know, they could theoretically go for, you know, millions of kilometers, which is hard to get our heads around. And nobody expects your vehicle to go longer than 300,000. If it was still going then, your vehicle, you'd be amazed. Yep. Yes. Yeah. So good. Yes. Yeah, that's right. You could actually just use a 120 volt outlet like most of us would have outside our house for plugging in something. But how much range it adds would be more like 5 kilometers in an hour with that trickle charger, with the plug-in in your house. Most people are going to put in one that operates on the same sort of a circuit as your stove, your hot water boiler, 240 volts. And in that case, it's going to give you about, say, 20 to 30 kilometers for every hour. But, you know, our vehicles are parked in our driveways for 10 hours in the evening, so it's not a big deal. And that's the way most people do their charging, right? So they just plug in at home. It's not, unless they want to leave MacGyver's and drive to Gander or St. John's, that they're going to use the fast chargers. But people need to have them there for when you take that long trip, right? When you come to MNL and Gander and you want to be able to drive your EV, you want to be able to get here. Yes, sir. Oh, you mean power going out? Yes. Yeah. Well, that's definitely going to be an issue. And, you know, yeah. Yeah, for sure. It definitely is, you know, and when the power goes out in Port aux Basques or anywhere else, you can be sure that we're jumping in vehicles and heading off to try to get the power back on. Yeah, yeah, from the EV, from a, yes, that's right. Yeah, and
Oh,
yeah. Thank you very much. But yeah, it would be a concern if, like you said, if you get an extended power outage, okay, where does that leave me with my vehicle? Yeah. Yes. Yep. Right. Yeah. That's an excellent question. Right. Yeah. Well, I don't want to be flippant, but don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. But it's a very good point because these are big loads, right? That everybody, you know, so if we say everybody's coming home at supper time from work, plug it in their vehicle, and you got thousands of people doing this at the same time, where are we going to be? Yeah. And that'll be a long ways down the road, but yeah, it's still a fair point. And I mean, utilities are talking about is how do we, and it's what everybody talks about is managed charging. So most of us drive about 50 kilometers a day, more or less. Obviously, some people drive more, some people drive less. So that would require about an hour and a half of charging at home with that 240 volt charger. And so what it means is that when you plug in at supper time, and some of us got to go to the rink with the kids and go wherever, but you've got 10 or 12 hours to get an hour and a half of charging done. So what will happen is that it will be managed. So the details are still getting worked out, but you know, maybe somebody won't start charging their vehicle till 2 o'clock in the morning, and another group will be 3 o'clock. And so it'll have to be managed, and it won't be able to be, you know, wild, I'll say. Yeah. Yeah. So, right. Absolutely. No, it's a very valid issue. Like, how are we going to do this? That's right. And you're on the road and you want to get there. So you got to get a charge. So, you know, right now, on average, going across the TCH, they're about every 70 kilometers. So there's one in Port Blandford, which is, you know, 15 kilometers before Clarenville. There's one in Goobies, which is 20 kilometers past, and then there's another one in Whitburn and so on. So, I mean, that will just keep growing. And right now there's one fast charger at each of those sites. So over the next number of years, there will have to be 2 here in Gander. It's a central point, and 2 in Goobies and so on. So it will have to grow out to take care of that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, let me say this. Again, I got to be careful not to be flippant, but you know, I love the engagement here. A lot less than what you pay for gas. And that just gives me an excuse to say that, you know, the cost for the electricity will be about 20% of what it costs you for gas. And I could try to do some quick math in my head, but that probably would be a bit dangerous because I might fool it up. But anyways, right now at today's gas prices, you know, you would save about 80% of what you're paying. So if it took you $100 to drive this far with gas, it would be more like $20 at home. More at those fast chargers, probably about $40 if you're using the fast chargers, but that's for those long trips. Right?
In reality, okay, right now there's a savings, but let's hypothetically say everybody goes on that. What do you think is going to happen with power grids with driving the prices up? So really the consumer don't save. Because when someone gets a conglomerate on everything, they focus on your prices.
Well, you know, I mean, we get, and I've been working with Newfoundland Power for 30 something years. So, I mean, of course, we get you're a monopoly and so on. And that's obviously true, right? But we're regulated. So we have to explain ourselves to the Public Utilities Board when we go in and, you know, with all the energy that will be available through Muscat Falls, it will be a good thing to have more people displacing gas, saving 80%, but paying a little bit more for electricity. That will be a good thing on balance for the province.
What's the first thing you do when you go to Public Utilities Board? Say, we can give you all you colors free power.
Well, it'd be like trying to bribe the judge, I suppose. Maybe people have done it in the past, but it doesn't work. How are we doing for time, Amy? You? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I mentioned Amy before I started. I said, I'll try to repeat the questions, but I haven't been doing a very good job of that, have I? So I'm going to continue on. Amy's giving me the time count. We've got about 5 minutes left to go, but I do love the questions, and I'll, if I get more, I'll try to remember to repeat them. And so, you know, there's funding available now through government sources. If you want to, you know, if you run a business as well, or you want to put a charger at your municipality or somewhere in the town, there's funding available for up to 50% of that cost. So it's a good situation, and to give credit where credit is due, you know, a lot of that money is coming from the federal government. The province has also gotten their hands on some of that, so they're making that available. So it's a good thing now, and it will have to happen, right? We'll have to have more chargers. So I'm at my last slide. There's my name at the top, Peter Upshall. If you have got questions about our business efficiency program, you're thinking about your forestation or your arena or pumping station, happy to work with you to try to find some ways that you can save electricity. So that's the end of my presentation. I know there was lots of question and lots of passion about electric vehicles. We're passionate about vehicles, and it's coming. I don't think people are trying to force it down your throat, but we're getting ready. And if you watch the hockey game and you watch commercials, like all the manufacturers of cars are promoting their EVs, is something that we see. So it's coming. We're getting ready for it, and we'll be able to manage the electrical grid too. It's going to take some work, but we'll be able to do it. Yeah. Excellent. Yes. Oh, sorry. There's a gentleman standing up at the back. Yes, sir. Yep. Yep. Yes. That is a fantastic question. So the question is, you know, as a representative of Newfoundland Power, I'm talking about our areas. These take charge programs are available throughout the province. So everything I've said about applies to the Newfoundland and Labrador hydro areas as well. Yeah, fantastic question. Thank you for that.
I'd just like to say, our esteemed leader, Miss Amy Goldie, is here. I'd just like to say to her that this here today is a lot better than having to get up and go over to that microphone or sit up for an hour and listen to somebody and then try to recreate. Well, what did he say? What question should I ask?
Yeah.
We're not all young here. I'm in the waning years of my life.
Come on, boy. You look like $1 million down there.
Always
Yes.
for now.
That's right. And so again, for our online people, he's saying it's nice when you can ask a question from the chair for Amy's benefit. And I do like it because we are spontaneously thinking about questions. And from my perspective, by the time the presentation's over, maybe I don't want to ask that question anymore. So it's a balancing act for sure, especially when you want to reach out to online people and you want them to be able to hear what's going on. So I do appreciate all your questions and your interest in the topic. Yes, we got one more question there, and look, you're going to come up to the microphone. Thank you very much.
This is Ume Kulsum. I'm a researcher in the Memorial University of Newfoundland. My question is about EV vehicles. So using more EV vehicles mean less emission.
Right.
but it also mean more use of electricity.
Right.
So my question is, do you have plan or thinking of electric generation from different sources, or that's it, only traditional sources? I am not sure which is the main source of electricity generation in Newfoundland. Is that hydro?
It is hydro, yeah.
It is
Right,
hydro.
right now, and I won't count Muskrat Falls for the moment. It's probably 75 to 80% with the full Muskrat Falls ready to go. It would be more like 98%. So from a renewable energy, from a hydropower perspective, we are in very good shape. Yeah.
So do you think that the increased demand will be managed by from the same supply, or?
Yes, yeah. You know, and over time that will have to change. So maybe in 5 or 10 years, and it takes a long time to create new sources. But yeah, we'll be good for a long time. But, and again, we bring the power to your homes and businesses. Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro are the generators of electricity. So they're already planning for, you know, adding supply, but that's many years down the road as well.
And my last question, is that involved with increased greenhouse gas emission in that source of power generation? From
No,
hydro?
because it's hydropower, it's clean. You know, there will still be some where we'll have to produce greenhouse gases, but you know, we're going to go from about 80% up to almost 98% clean hydropower, essentially. So we'll be in very good shape. So when we're reducing greenhouse gases in for the vehicles that are now burning gasoline, you know, that'll be a great
Yes.
win for the environment, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. Yes, sir. Will we be changing all our service vehicles to electric is the question on the floor. And we've started, but even for us, that'll be a process, right? So we've got probably 3 vehicles in our fleet now, and we'll be growing that. And most people probably aware, and there's a Ford F-150 Lightning parked out in the parking lot. Now there'll be a presentation late this afternoon, but you know, that's only become available in the last year for sure. And they're hard to get because they're pretty popular. So, you know, those will start to be added to the fleet. We do have one of those as well. So 4, yeah.
Before you go, I'd like to commend you, it's service work. You're doing a wonderful job. You keep service.
Thank you very much. And so the gentleman is applauding our service workers that are out there that work so hard to keep the power on. So as my neighbors used to say, I'm an office boy. So sometimes I go out, but it's another group and a very important group that you're recognizing. And I thank you very much on their behalf for doing that. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They're in the future. And there are a lot more now, which is to, you know, call a spade a spade. If you buy an electric vehicle, there's a big premium on that. You get savings on gas, but for most people, you know, you got to think long and hard about paying that premium. There are rebates available from the feds, $5,000 when you buy an electric vehicle, and the province has $2,500. So there's monies available to try to get over that, you know, big extra cost for EVs. Fantastic. Oh, we got one more question. Amy's going to kick me off very soon. Yeah. 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 Yes, so the question is about, you know, the environmental considerations for these batteries in 10 or 15 years time when the vehicle is no longer useful. We've got these batteries. So I mean, there will definitely be recycling of those batteries. There is some thought to utilities, not necessarily us, but others where they have a lot of solar energy available to be able to, you know, put those into place and use those for the power system. So, you know, there will be options, and not the least of which is recycling that will, you know, have to be had to be taken into account for those batteries when they're finished their useful life. Fantastic. Thanks for your patience too, Amy. And thank you all for the questions and the interest in the topic. Appreciate it.